With zero internet issues, we are live. Welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast. AEW did a great rating this week and beat Raw in some very, very key demographics, which we're going to get into in just a moment. I am Luke Owen, D.A.D., and I'm joined by the hardest working person in all of sports infotainment. Has she recovered, everyone? It's Denise Salcedo. How are you feeling?
I was 15 minutes early to today's stream, Luke.
Were you 15?
15 minutes early, considering that we did not start until very late. I was 15 minutes early. That's it. That's the record that I'm going with for today.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'll give you that one. Yeah, apologies, everyone. We had thank you all for jumping across to the new link as well. Like, StreamYard just would not push us live. For whatever reason, just would not push us live. Apparently, they've been having some issues, so we created a new stream. Thank you all so much for joining us. And also, a thank you to for joining us today. Denise Salcedo's breakfast buddy, it's Tempest the Wrestler. How are you, Tempest?
We're live, pal. I'm doing well. I'm doing well, Luke. We had a very lovely time in Chicago, and now all that is over, and we're back to all working remotely. And it's a little bit sad, but it was a good weekend, so plenty of good memories to look back on.
We're back to reality is what we are.
A little bit.
So I had an email. We got an email yesterday to the podcast from someone who was just like, All Out feels like the new WrestleMania weekend. Like, do you think like more like wrestling companies to get around for All Out? And then they sent an email. It was really weird because there were all of these American journalists that were getting together. Like Denise was there and Sean was there. Like all the Fightful team were there. Alex was there. Church of Joshi were there. But the British boys didn't go across at all. Where were the Wrestle boys? Where were Cultaholic? And we were like, lads, there's a pandemic on. Getting across isn't exactly the easiest thing in the world. Also, might become a dad at some point soon. Can't really believe in the country. However, that does not stop. Becoming a dad is going to be the greatest thing in the world. But when I woke up on Sunday morning and there were just video after video and picture after picture of all of you guys hanging out together, having fun with your all little in-jokes and your new little stories that you've got together. Oh, did I have a little grumbly cup of coffee in the morning? I bet it's not that good, though. I mean, it's a bit rubbish over there, really.
Were you talking smack on us, Luke? Were you like, I hope that bad things happen to them? I hope that...
I mean,
how
Denise,
mad were you, Luke?
When you got stuck outside the building and you did not get back to your hotel room until like 2 hours before your flight, I was like, good. I'm glad that she had a terrible...
Hey. He was there too.
I'm glad Tempest got stuck too, because I didn't get to have fun with all of you guys today. So I'm glad you had a terrible end to it all.
That is just mean, Luke. I didn't know you had this in you. I didn't know you had one mean bone in you. And now we know the truth. The truth of Luke Owen has been revealed. Here we are, all happy for you, and you were wishing us bad stuff.
Bad vibes. I was sending out bad juju into the world, being like, well, I hope they don't get a taxi back to their hotel rooms.
Well, Tempest and I, we had breakfast. We went to all the shows together. I was gonna say, what else did we do? We did we got stranded together. He sat behind me at All Out. I mean,
we sat together at All Out as well.
Yeah, he sat behind me.
Oh, man.
I was surrounded at All Out by Denise in front of me, Sean on one side, Izzy on the other side, and Phil Lindsay behind me. I was surrounded by great people.
He was.
Oh, what a way to watch the show. But we also did GCW when you were ring announcing. I got to see that. Very cool. And we did karaoke that Luke didn't get to go to.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
We did karaoke, Luke. We sang and danced and cheered and ate food. Well, I didn't eat food, but other people did.
I saw you take a terrible stunner from Sean Ross Sapp. Yeah, like honestly, like it was genuinely wonderful to like wake up on that Sunday morning and just see like you all have a really nice time. Like it genuinely was.
Don't lie now, Luke. Don't lie. Don't take it back. You said what you said.
It was like it was
falling apart.
Genuinely, I was so jealous though. So jealous. Like I had a lovely weekend and everything, and me and my wife went out and had a lovely cup of coffee together. But at the same time, it wasn't quite like being in Chicago for All Out. And then so like let's get into our main topic conversation. Because AEW did a great number this week. And in the words of CM Punk,
Pardon my lewdness. I got a boner for that.
So
is that my video footage, Luke?
It is your video. Oh yeah, I saw your video footage.
Thanks. I'm gonna send you an evil copyright notice. I'll be like, I copyrighted 3 people.
I saw you had a busy day yesterday. Like you woke up in a sassy mood. You were calling out people in your comment section. You were like throwing the ban hammer down. You were throwing copyright strikes out the wazoo.
And I'm savage too. You know how they give you the 2 options, the 7-day notice and the immediate takedown plus a copyright strike? I do the immediate takedown and a copyright strike.
Oh yeah. There was part of me because we did credit you for it though. We used some of your footage in the WrestleTalk news on the Monday episode to be like, look how here's Brian Danielson talking about these things. Here's Ruby Soho. Here's Adam Cole.
I'm gonna contact Ollie Davis right now, and I'm gonna be like, "Where's my cut of this?" Yeah, thanks.
I mean, Denise, with your link to it in the video description, I would wager that we sent a lot of people your way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. We made a heck of a lot of money off your hard work. So thank you very much for being you. So let's dive into this. AEW Dynamite did, it was a 1.3 rating overall, which, that is the second highest rating the show has ever done outside of its debut episode back in October 2019. In the 18 to 49 demographic, Dynamite drew a 0.52 rating, which is up 40% from the previous week. And it beat WWE Raw in that 18 to 49 demographic, averaging 681,000 viewers in that category, topping Raw's 678,000 viewers. It was 3,000 more viewers was how they beat them in that rating. Finished first on cable for the night 18 to 49. Brandon Thurston over at WrestleNomics did an amazing breakdown of this, as he always does. A fabulous, fabulous resource and great man as well. Friend of this show. Not only said that this is the first time that Dynamite has beaten Raw in that category in the same week. They also were ahead of Raw in the males 18 to 49 and people 35 to 49, ranked number 1 in cable across all shows 18 to 49. The highest quarter in total viewership was the 7th quarter for the angle involving the Elite, which also included Danielson and Cole, which drew 1.5 million viewers. That was the highest rated segment on the show. The second highest rated on the show, wonderful to see this, Ruby Soho versus Jamie Hayter was the second highest rating on the show. So the second biggest segment. So that's great news. First off, Denise Salcedo, you were there for All Out. You got to see the debuts of Cole, Danielson, Soho. Now watching Dynamite as well. How did you sort of feel that AEW capitalized on that, or maybe not capitalized on it? And sort of your thoughts on the ratings as all?
Honestly, in terms of the ratings, I think they had to have a number that was impressive for this week. And because if they didn't, it's kind of like you had all of these, like Tony Khan really put everything out there. He put everything that he had, he put it out there. Like when Adam Cole came out, I honestly thought that was going to be it. I thought they were going to save Bryan Danielson for a future show. I don't know, maybe the Arthur Ashe show, because I know a lot of people had reported that or had, not also had that as a rumor that he was going to be there for that show. But, we got Minoru Suzuki that we weren't expecting. We got Ruby Soho, which we were expecting, but we didn't know for sure. Adam Cole. And then on top of that, people are already marking out in person for Adam Cole. And then you get Bryan Danielson on top of that. So you have so much momentum coming out of that show and coming out of that media scrum. You knew that something had changed there that night, and you felt it. Like the second that we had Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson come out, I think I tweeted something along the lines of the perception right now for AEW is so strong that as a person looking from the outside in, I would say, you know what? I'm going to start paying attention to these people if I wasn't already. And that's kind of how it felt. Like you kind of felt like it was a night of a big deal. It wasn't just, surprises. It was more so of what the surprises symbolized. And so I definitely think that everybody sort of felt that way, because even the following day, not the following day, but the Wednesday of yesterday for Dynamite, Wednesday on Dynamite, the day of Dynamite, I tweeted out basically saying that I was so excited going into the show, and so many other people basically shared my sentiment, because it felt like a big deal, and they had to hit that ratings mark too. And I feel that we're not going to see that growth in the ratings right away. I do think it's going to take time, as we've seen, basically history repeats itself. I do think it's going to take a while for us to really see the effects of that night. And we did see some effects, again, with that rating, with all the facts that you just mentioned right now. But I think as time progresses, that's only going to keep getting stronger. They're building a foundation, and right now that foundation looks pretty strong.
That's what I was going to say. Tempest is like, Denise is right as well. Like, this isn't going to be something like, it's not going to be an overnight success. Oh my God, they've beaten Raw in the overall viewership. Like, that isn't something that's going to happen, within just a week of Danielson and that coming in. But like, yeah, the foundation's here. 1.5 million tuning in for that segment, with the elites and everything, or 1.3 overall. Like, I think Tony Khan and the rest of the AEW team have got to see that as a huge win, right?
I would have to think so. I mean, we've been saying for a long time that WWE is trending downward and AEW is trending upward. And I think this is just another example of that, where this is now the highest that they've gone since their debut episode. And we don't know what next week's rating is going to be. Obviously, the first show after All Out was going to do a big number with the debuts that came. But this is a really big number for them to get. This is a big step for them. And I don't see any reason to doubt that they could hit this number again in the next couple of months. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I wouldn't feel uncomfortable betting on it. It's this company. I've been saying this week, AEW is the number one wrestling company in the world. They just haven't made it official yet. And we're trending in that direction now. Like, the public perception of AEW has been very good for a long time now. And you are now pairing that with a return from the pandemic that is now seeing them be able to land the top free agent stars in wrestling, and combine that with excellent weekly television and excellent pay-per-views. And you mix all that together, and it's very hard to find major flaws with this company. And when they then have ratings, well, then you're starting to put actual tangible numbers to the success of the company, and numbers have been going up. I have no reason to think that they won't keep going up going forward.
I think what also
these numbers
helps
are intangible.
Of course.
I think definitely what also helped AEW too is the fact that you recently, it's not like this whole CM Punk thing happened 3 months ago. Like, this is literally something that happened within the last 30 days. And then right afterwards, you get all of this other news coming in. So it kind of feels like it doesn't feel like there was a dry period where you weren't hearing about AEW on the news. No, you were hearing about it, even if you, again, are not an AEW fan, but you're a wrestling fan, period. You're going to be hearing about the news that they're doing right now. So regardless of that, like, they didn't have that dry period where it's like, oh, they haven't done anything in a while. No, it was the CM Punk stuff that lasted for a bit, and then right into weeks. So let me rewind a little bit first, actually, because remember we had 4 weeks of that mark where they four continuous weeks where they had over 1 million. Okay, that's news right there. Then we jump into the CM Punk stuff. That was news right there. Then we jump into this, more news there. I feel like all of that kind of happened in a very nice time period where you can't help it but be like, oh, dang, like, they're doing something here. And right now,
what I would say, to kind of further on from that point that you're making there, though, is that, we had the 4 straight weeks of 1 million, right? And then we had Punk come in, and Punk was like a huge deal. Like, it's the first time he's returned to wrestling in 7 years. You follow that up with Danielson and Cole, right? So, and Ruby Soho as well. So, all of a sudden, it's like, wow, you got this whole new huge thing here. That's kind of, unless, Bray is coming in, or you're bringing in some other names, you're not bringing in any new names now. You're not spiking ratings with that. So my question, I suppose, would be, Denise, is this something that they can, do you think that these fans are going to be sticking around? I suppose is the question. Next week is a segment with the Elite and Danielson going to do another 1.5, or is this just post pay-per-view bump, intrigue to see what happens here? Do you think they're going to be sticking around, or are we going to see this number just slowly go back to what they were doing, say, 6 weeks ago?
I do think that this was obviously a curiosity thing of tuning in and seeing what they're going to do with Adam Cole, or what are they going to say, because they've been sort of, known for having people come out and say things, say indirect shots to WWE. And even though Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson weren't necessarily going to do that, I do think people are curious as to what they're going to say on the mic, what they're going to do, especially having, Adam Cole with the Elite, how they're going to fit in Bryan Danielson, what are they going to do next with CM Punk, after this whole Darby Allin thing. But on top of that, the other thing that people were interested in, which I do think they dropped the ball on, was that main event match between Jon Moxley and Minoru Suzuki. And the reason why I say they dropped the ball on that one was because I do think that people were expecting a certain caliber of a match. And due to time constraints and the way that it was essentially given, like, I don't even know how many minutes, but it wasn't necessarily that long.
7 minutes.
Thank you. I do think that they dropped the ball there, but that's a good sign too. And not that they dropped the ball, but the fact that people were also tuning in to watch something like Jon Moxley versus Minoru Suzuki. People had interest in that, which is why I think that they did drop the ball, in the sense that they should have given that match, a little bit more time, and, kind of felt like the people, I didn't feel in that match like I was satisfied after that. I didn't feel like I got what I was hoping that I would get. But at the end of the day, I still tuned in for that. I still had a huge interest in that. So if AEW keeps doing stuff like that in terms of booking matches that people want to see, but then deliver, I do think that is going to, in the long run, just keep helping the company and keep helping the promotion, essentially just like build stronger. And in terms of, like, even for example, like the whole thing with CM Punk, all right, and that segment that they did on Dynamite, already we know he's going to be working matches with Team Taz. All right. So they're telling you right now in this one episode that a lot of people tuned in for, you're going to be seeing CM Punk possibly have matches with these guys. So within that, that's up to the viewer now, whether or not they want to tune in for that. Adam Cole and the Elites, I feel like that right now is just a super hot story. Even though it just got started, it feels hot to me. Whether or not that's going to get people to stay in and watch, keep in mind, not everybody is going to, know the backstory to this and all of that. So you do have to make way for new viewers to understand and all of that. I think they will. It's just more, again, I think they have to keep consistently building upon what they have, and not, essentially just rely on these big surprises, because at the end of the day, people are going to want more depth to these people that are coming into the company.
Point proven to that is, like, looking at the quarterly breakdowns of Dynamite. I was kind of going through, like, what was the highest rated segments. The highest rated segment was the Elite segment. Like, that was 1.5 million views, insane number, followed up by the Ruby Soho Jamie Hayter match, top of the hour, so that was always going to get a big number. And interestingly, the third highest rated segment on the show was the Dark Order versus the Pinnacle in that 6-man tag. Minoru Suzuki versus Mox was the fourth biggest segment of the show, which means that the CM Punk promo was not one of the highest things in the show. The MJF promo actually outdrew that in terms of ratings. So, like, Tempest, kind of like to that point of, Punk came in and drew this big number for Rampage. But like, that curiosity number is now starting to, like, find what it is consistently. Like, kind of what do you make of, the Elite coming in doing this 1.5 and Punk's segment now being like the 5th, 6th biggest thing on the show?
I think it's very interesting, and I think it just kind of speaks to AEW putting a certain amount of emphasis on different things on different nights. I think a lot of people just kind of assumed CM Punk coming in was going to be, CM Punk is going to have the highest rated segment on every show because he's CM Punk. We haven't seen him in so long. And that's probably not going to be the case. He's another, I don't want to say he's another guy on the show. He's CM Punk. He's a much bigger star than many of the people on the AEW roster. But he isn't immune to taking a back seat for a week, I don't think. This was a week where, he came out to just kind of cut a generic promo to say, Cincinnati, yeah. No one better interrupt me. Interruption. That kind of promo, which I think there were people who would tune in to see CM Punk do something, but the Elite reintroducing Adam Cole was something that a lot more people for this week would tune into and make sure that they had to see. If this was a few weeks down the line and the match had already been set up for CM Punk and Ricky Starks and they're going to do a face-to-face promo, I could see that once again being the highest rated segment on the show. I think this was just kind of an off week for him.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. I think the next question is like, we have got a very big Dynamite coming up. The Arthur Ashe show. Like, I am right. That is a Dynamite episode, isn't it? Like the Grand Slam one. So they've already announced for that MJF versus Pillman Jr. But like, this is the biggest show that AEW are going to be putting on in terms of like the audience that are in attendance for it. It's like a massive, massive deal for them. You've got to think they're going to want to make that the biggest show possible. And in my mind, I said this on the AEW review yesterday, if I'm doing Omega Danielson now, I'm not doing it for the title. I think you can tell the story of like Danielson just wanted to do this to have the match with him. Like Omega saying like, you can have the match, but it's not going to be for the belts because you haven't climbed the rankings. You haven't earned the right to win a title shot. So you do Omega versus Danielson non-title and maybe make that the main event of the Arthur Ashe show, like, and to like really pull in that huge rating. Like, I don't know, Denise, do you think there's like AEW are really going to like go out of their way now they've got this momentum to try and like put on some epic shows, try and pull in a huge, huge number?
Well, you mentioned right then and there, you said this is a big show for them. You mentioned them going in with a lot of momentum right now heading into that show. And even if that show necessarily isn't like the greatest show ever or anything like that, the visual of them being at the Arthur Ashe show is going to look at the Arthur Ashe location is going to look impressive. Okay. You know, I'm new to the Arthur Ashe, so I'm excited to see what it's going to look like. But again, if it looks like a big deal, people are going to take it as a big deal. So I do like your idea on this, you know, doing a non-title match between Bryan and Kenny Omega. And the reason why I like that is because we know down the line we're going to get a match between them, you know, for the title. We know that. You shouldn't rush into it, okay? But if they do it in the way where it's like, this weekend, you had Bryan Danielson telling Kenny Omega, I'm better than you, and you're afraid to essentially wrestle me because you know that I'm better than you. And this is another argument for another day, but I know here, everybody, you know, us here on the show, people watching the show, I know we all have our opinions on who we think is better, Kenny Omega or Bryan Danielson. That within itself could be a legitimate argument right there, okay? So if you do this match at Arthur Ashe, I think it would be a good idea to maybe show that, you know, Kenny Omega isn't necessarily, in storyline, Kenny Omega isn't necessarily on such a high pedestal, and they can tell the story of, you know, essentially Bryan Danielson being right when he said that he was a better wrestler than him. And then, you know, obviously working around it so that, you know, they could have Bryan Danielson defeat him on that night. Again, non-title, we'll see. But I think basically if they make it in a way so where it's kind of like scares Kenny Omega into realizing that this guy could legitimately take his title, that would be a cool and fun story to tell. And again, given that they're promoting the show so massively, might as well do something like that.
Tempest, I raised this point yesterday on the AEW show, which is, you know, if they are going to do Danielson versus Omega, it reminded me of when TNA brought in Kurt Angle. And it was the first thing they did was Angle versus Joe, because that was the dream match that everyone wanted to see. And there was a massive amount of debate on the forums that I was a part of and sort of like, you know, wrestling friends of mine about like, do you have Angle beat Joe because Angle's first match in, or do you have Joe win and establish the TNA star as like better than this like guy that's just come in? Because otherwise you're just saying, well, this ex-WWE guy is being put over the TNA guy. That kind of makes TNA look low rent. I'm curious to get, I'm going to ask Denise this question as well, but like, where do you fall on this? Do you have Omega win, or do you have, because like you're establishing AEW, or do you have Danielson win because it's the first match?
It's so tough. I can't imagine that a match like this will go off with a perfectly clean finish, because it just seems so early to beat either guy. You know, Kenny Omega's been champion for almost a year, and even still, he should be champion until probably Revolution, I would think. I think that's when I would have Hangman Page beat Kenny Omega for the title.
Not at Full Gear.
I want to see this continue on a little bit further. And I've seen a few people in the chat saying maybe you could do a time limit draw. We haven't had a time limit draw on TV in quite a while. I think honestly, that's a perfect finish for this kind of match. It doesn't have to be like the 60-minute draw that you'd have in a title match, because that would be kind of ridiculous for TV. But if you did like a 20-minute draw on the main event, I think that's probably the way to go, because this match is so interesting to me. And when they put it on Dynamite, them coming face to face, this was the first time in a long time that I saw Kenny Omega square off with someone that I would consider equal to him as an all-around performer. And not just as a performer, but as presentation and everything like that, because you get guys who are excellent like Pac and Orange Cassidy and everything, but they're very clearly like a tier below Kenny Omega on the AEW hierarchy. And then Hangman Page could end up at that level, but he's on the way up, so he's not quite there yet. But man, Bryan Danielson has a legitimate claim of being the best wrestler in the world, and someone who could challenge Kenny Omega for being the best wrestler in the world, the best bout machine, whatever you want to call it. This is very exciting to me. I think the Kurt Angle comparison is very apt in this situation. I don't think that as many people will look at him as the WWE guy, because there's so many of these new talents that are coming into AEW who have extensive history of being like Ring of Honor guys or guys from this place or that place, where they've got a lot more like credentials with the hardcore fans than if somebody was just coming in from WWE. Then I might be a little bit iffy on beating an AEW guy really strong, but I think you could possibly do it with Daniel Bryan and get away with it too. Bryan Danielson. It's going to take me a while.
I did it earlier in this show. The time limit draw thing, I really like. Like someone said that yesterday on our show, and I was like, that's a great way around it. But I thought about this today. When Pac first came back onto the wrestling scene, he did a show over here for Rev Pro, and it was Pac versus Will Ospreay. And it was like oh my God, we're going to get Pac versus Will Ospreay. But that was also at a time when Pac wasn't really losing anything because he had the Dragon Gate title. So they did a time limit draw then. And when that crowd realized it was going to be a time limit draw, they started to boo. And they really, really turned on like the finish of the match. So Denise, I suppose the question I was going to ask you, A, like, you know, what's your thoughts on this? And B, do you think that the AEW fans might turn on a draw as well?
Look, here's the thing is that I get what you mean by that. But then again, you have Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson, who are two of the smartest workers in the history of wrestling. I feel that if they were to do something like that, they would do it in a way where I have faith that they would make people sort of forget about that time limit draw, so that when it does happen, you're just like, oh, shoot. I feel like they would come up with a way to make it so that the audience doesn't necessarily boo. Now, I do agree with Tempest, where I do think that regardless of whether you have Kenny Omega win or Bryan Danielson win, that they do have to do it in a way where it's not necessarily a clean finish to, you know, protect both guys. And again, when they do decide to do this for the title, you always have that match to look back on. And here's the thing, though, is that personally, I would not be upset if they did a time limit thing, because I know, and here's the thing, I know that I'm not expecting them to have Kenny Omega, you know, beat Bryan Danielson cleanly or vice versa, okay? So going in already knowing that, I feel like all I want is a good wrestling match, something that's exciting. And it's more so of wanting to see them in the ring together and wanting them to go toe to toe. But then again, at the same time, that's the mentality I'm coming from. Not everybody comes from that. Some people want to go in and see not just a spectacle of a match, but a spectacle of a result. So I do feel like, you know, there is different types of viewers. There might be people that are just like, screw it, I'm happy as long as they have a match together and they have a good match. But then there's going to be people that are going to be like, nah, we essentially need to have, you know, some sort of definitive, finish for the match. So again, I think they're going to have, if they do decide to do this match at Arthur Ashe, they're going to have to come up with a fun way to make sure that people are essentially pleased all around and that both competitors are essentially protected to, you know, till they actually pull the plug on them for the title.
I agree with everything that you've said. And I've The more that I've thought about this time limit draw scenario, the more I like it, honestly, because I think they have a very interesting way of doing this match where, because the time limit draw to me is not a bad finish by any means, if it services the story that they're telling. And in the early months of AEW, like back in 2019, the very early days, they did a handful of time limit draws. And like the first one with Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes serviced the story because Cody wasn't expecting this young upstart first match in the company guy to be this much of a challenge, and he couldn't beat him in 20 minutes. That serviced the story, and they look forward to the next match and such on so forth. Once they started doing it afterwards, that's when I think fans kind of started going like, all right, just give us a finish. Like, give us an actual finish, not a 7-minute draw in the main event with Pac and John Moxley and whatever. That is the way not to do it. But if they instead had the angle be Kenny Omega and Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson, it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
They haven't wrestled each other since like their days in Ring of Honor in like 2008 or something.
Yeah.
So they're basically going in fresh. Kenny Omega's a completely different wrestler than he was then. So you have them feeling each other out, kind of similar to like the Okada Omega matches, where all of a sudden it's very difficult to get all your offense in on a guy that you're still trying to figure out like that. And when you're so good and so evenly matched, it takes a lot longer to get going. And then all of a sudden 20 minutes isn't enough. It's not enough for a match like that. And if they tell the story that way, I think you can pivot and have anybody who's booing or unhappy with the lack of a finish, and you can turn that around and just have it further the story. And I think that's just an excellent way to go, honestly.
Before we dive into the Ultrachats, because we got a bunch of people who got some thoughts on this. So last question I did want to ask to the pair of you. Denise, I'm going to come to you on this first. Do you think that this will bother WWE in any way? Like AEW doing this number, AEW doing this demo rating and beating Raw in the demo ratings. Do you think it bothers them in any way? Do you think they're going to try and do something on Monday to try and perhaps not counter program because they're not on the same night, but try and do something that will boost a big rating for them?
I think it's a bad sign if it doesn't bother them. If you're seeing somebody climb up those ranks and you're not doing anything about it, I don't know what to say. That would just be a very bad sign. Competition is supposed to drive you. Is that not the thing? You're supposed to essentially, be in a competition, therefore trying to better yourself. So they have to. That's it. They can't just see them as like, when they're getting your wrestlers, when you're making these generous offers to these talents and they're still saying, no, I'm going to go to the other company. And this was something that both Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson talked about on that media scrum. If you essentially have your talent still deciding to leave, even when certain talent has family in important positions in the company and they are still leaving, I'm going to start wondering, what the hell should I do? I'm going to have to make some changes. And we haven't even talked about that Mick Foley video. I mean, 1 minute, the man said so much in 1 minute. And when you have somebody with a legacy and a career like Mick Foley telling you that you have a problem, man, if that was me, I would be like, holy bananas, I need to do something, I need to change my ways. It's like an intervention. That's what it felt like, an intervention. I care about you. You did great things for me. Now listen up, because I don't want to see you fail. And that's the thing. Like, as a WWE fan, I grew up a WWE fan. I do not want to see WWE fail. And there are a lot of people out there that do not share my sentiment, and I'm fully aware of that. But as a fan of WWE, and because I have been my entire life, I do not want to see them fail. I want to see them succeed. And I also want to see AEW succeed, because I am fully aware that you need more than one company to make sure that these wrestlers actually have a legitimate opportunity to have a legitimate career where you don't have to work 50,000 jobs, working the independent scene and making, a couple bucks every show. We need more than one company to do that. So we need both of these companies to succeed. And, and also the other ones too, like Impact, MLW, and Ring of Honor. Okay. So yeah, that's where I stand on this.
I'm also like from our creative point of view as well. Like it's always great when multiple wrestling companies do really well because that means more wrestling fans and more wrestling fans come and watch us. I'm always reminded of, and this is going way back when
the golden boat, right? The golden boat.
Yes. Oh, Tempest. This is why I love you so much. So back when TNA first went on to like go up against WWE, like they went against Raw, like during the Monday Night War, they took Impact to Monday nights. People started having to go at Brian Alvarez, being like, "You just want Impact to fail. You want TNA to fail." And he was like, "I want them to succeed because if they do well, I do well, and if they're doing well, I could buy myself a golden boat." And he had this thing about sailing on this golden boat that he's buying from all the money that he's making. So yeah, I also want a golden boat. It's true, right?
True. Man, I will tell you this. Whenever wrestling is good, my podcasts do so much better. And the money is better. Please. Good wrestling, good news, people being in a good mood is completely, it's underrated. I mean, come on. Like, I don't know.
Man, I don't think many things are going to pop me more this week than Tempest knowing that I was going to talk about golden boats.
I knew exactly where you were going.
Across the screen now.
If anybody hasn't heard it, I'm pretty sure on the F4W YouTube channel, they have uploaded that clip like in its entirety, the gold boat rant. It's one of the best moments in the history of the Empire. Absolutely phenomenal.
But I'm going to come to you now about your thoughts on WWE. Do you think they're going to try and do something on Raw to counteract this? Do you think we're getting another Legends night, a Raw reunion? I don't know. I mean, they got the draft, I suppose. Maybe they'll try and make something big out the draft.
Yeah, we still got to wait for the draft. Oh, we're saving everything for the draft, pal. I don't know, because when they try and do stuff like this, like, oh, we need to shake things up, we need something new, then we get things like Retribution. You know, that was supposed to be the big hot summer angle last year, and oh boy, it sure wasn't. So I don't know that they're going to look at this specific rating and be like, we got to do something. I think that they are much more affected by big names in the industry like Mick Foley talking about how great AEW is and how many problems WWE has. And they're just kind of like, shut up, Mick. Don't talk about it. Don't point it out. Maybe they won't notice. And a lot of people are noticing now. And I think they're a little bit more worried about that when you've got people like a Mick Foley pointing it out. So if they do anything about it, I think it'll be more in response to things like that as opposed to one specific rating. Because I seem to think like when they do these big moments and these big Legends Night, Raw reunion, whatever, it's more in response to a particularly low rating that they have rather than a great rating that AEW has. I still don't think that they're paying that much attention to AEW, and that's to their detriment. I think absolutely they should be looking at it like this is Raw in 1995, and they're getting killed by Nitro. You know, the numbers aren't there yet, but the quality of the shows are, you know, it's pretty much even. You know, I'd probably watch a Raw in 95 over Raw these days, and I'd watch Nitro and Dynamite over Raw in both cases. So I don't think that it's going to be a response to the big rating that we got this week. But if they do something in the near future, it might be a sign that they're taking things a little more seriously.
As Ashe puts here, rising tides raises all golden boats. So let's get into your Ultra Chats here. Thank you all so much. WrestleTalk.com/support. Get them in now. We're going to read them all out above the $5 mark. Ding, ding, ding. This is your last call for them. Mayor of Painesville, Dan said, how's everyone doing? AEW did fantastic ratings. Everyone was looking forward to Black versus Dustin Rhodes. Shows with Dustin always do good. There must be something to do with him. Match was also fantastic. This man does not age. Isn't he great?
He's a great worker. That was my favorite match of the night.
Same here. I loved it so much. Made Coaching said, I've never been sure why this demo is so important. If a show pulled in more viewers in a total, but in a different demographic, would this be seen as more impressive? Keep up the amazing work. Been a fan since the Quiet Ollie News days. So it's basically just comes down to advertisers. Advertisers are looking for specific demographics to, and that's how TV make their money, is through their advertisers being like, what's your demo rating here? We do this sort of numbers for these sorts of shows. Cool. I'm trying to appeal to those. Here's a truckload of money. Advertise my stuff to those people.
The young people, man. Everybody wants the young people. We're all obsessed with youth. The youth has the money. Well, actually, not really. If you really think about it, they don't, though. I was broke at 13 years old, man.
And they're not watching TV either.
You're on TikTok.
Oh,
they
God.
really are, though. Legitimately,
right.
I have siblings that, actually they watch like Netflix and stuff like that. They don't watch cable television. I swear they're on TikTok and they're on Netflix. That's it.
Sorry, Tempest.
No, that about covers it. I think we've moved on from the demographic talk and advertising and whatnot. But I mean, like, if you're gonna advertise like Gillette razors, who do you want watching that show? Adult men with beards that are gonna use them. There's your key demo for that ad. So it's stuff like
I use
that.
Gillette too, man. Not for
and
my
adult
beard,
women.
Ten Rizza said,
you just both stayed quiet. You didn't even know how to respond. Yes, women use razors too. I know. Shocking.
I'm married. Denise, I'm
That's
married.
What I'm saying. Why did you stay quiet?
My wife uses my razor because clearly I'm not using it. So
you were like, Denise, you had the face of why is Denise using razors?
I was going to let you hang there because I'm just being like, man, someone can clip that out of context and just take it in various different ways. So I was like, man, I'm just going to let Denise just do her own thing.
Thank you for leaving me underneath the bus.
Oh, you're very welcome. I had a clip of me go viral this week as taken out of context. I'm still mad about it. Ten Rosa said, would love to hear your thoughts on the future of AEW on TBS. Rampage going 2 hours against SmackDown at the better time slot, a better women's division effect on the ratings, how the Universal tapings will affect interest in future talent LIW. I don't think Rampage needs to be going to 2 hours at this point, personally. Denise, what about you?
I don't hate the idea, but I also know that right now it sounds all fine and dandy. And then when I realize it's going to affect every Friday for the rest of my life, then maybe I'll start thinking twice about it. I already got 3 hours of wrestling that I'm covering that day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to want to take a vacation at some point.
Denise actually has a massive beard.
Do you love it? I have the most beautiful beard ever.
Tempest, what about you?
Yeah, it's tough because AEW genuinely, like, Dynamite is not even just my favorite wrestling show. It's one of my favorite TV shows right now. It's just great storylines, and I want more of it. It's got me craving more AEW. So the obvious answer to that is, well, make Rampage 2 hours. And then as soon as you do that, it's like, you can't really put, the genie back in the bottle afterwards. You've opened Pandora's box, and now you got to stick with 2 hours every week. And it's not quite the same as Raw going to 3 hours, but there is something to be said for oversaturation, and they're in a good place right now.
I agree. Yeah. Like someone messaged us yesterday being like, oh, I think Dynamite should go to 3 hours. And I'm like, oh, you think you want that, but you don't actually want that.
Not for a second do I want that.
Not.
No universe.
No, thank you.
Please don't.
Ten Rizza also adds, what are your predictions for the ratings for the Arthur Ashe show? And do you think they need to start booking bigger buildings to make them feel like a massive deal? Hope Saturday Dynamites don't stop this momentum again. Love you all.
Hell yeah. Think about it. If you're sitting here, like, imagine like I was, shooting this podcast where you could see the city skyline behind me in this gorgeous, massive studio. You'd be like, damn, Denise, she's rolling. Look at her. The perception would be a lot better. There you go.
Yeah. Golden boats. Jared Hazelwood said, and I think this is on the subject of Brian Cage, saying, I get that Cage feels lost, but I think as the world opens up, that will fix itself. AEW's openness with other promotions may be a way to keep the main event scene rotating. Mox leaves for a few months with GCW. Danielson goes to New Japan for the G1, so on and so forth. Yeah, I'm going to get your thoughts on this whole Brian Cage situation with his wife's message yesterday. Tempest, I'll ask you first. Like, what do you make of Brian Cage's run in AEW?
I think it is befitting a man of his talents. I think that in terms of, and that's not like a bare rule of Brian Cage. I'm a big fan of Brian Cage. But, the main event scene of AEW is incredibly stacked, especially now. And he's been a guy who has been given a featured spot on TV in a pretty significant faction and has had consistent rivalries since his debut. I understand that you want to be world champion and you want to be in the main events every single week and everything, because that's what you aspire to do as a pro wrestler and blah, blah, blah. But not everyone gets to be that. And you kind of got to wait your turn to be that, because what else are you going to do with him, really? He's not going to beat Kenny Omega. He's not going to be a world champion right now. He's probably not going to be a TNT champion right now, beating Miro or any of the people they've got lined up for that belt right now. He's good where he is. And if he's not satisfied with that, then I think that's just trouble brewing, really. You know, and we've been wondering when people are going to start getting unsatisfied with their spots in AEW and who might jump over the other way. I don't know that that's going to happen, but this seems like the first bit of speculation on that.
Denise, what about you?
I have two sides of this. One, I do think they could utilize Brian Cage a whole lot more. Somebody like that doesn't knock on your door every day. He's look at him. But at the same time, aside from his appearance, he's still somebody that is very agile. And he can, based on what I have seen him do throughout his career, I do think that he can be in the ring with pretty much just about anybody and have a pretty exciting match. I would like to see him having more matches on Dynamite. However, the other thing that I do want to add to this, though, is let the fans go out and say, we want to see more of this person. This goes for everybody. Let the fans be that voice, because it just, it doesn't come across the same when it's like your own family doing it, like you get me? Like if, I don't know, it just wouldn't come across the same if my fiance came on here and was like, Luke, Ollie, use Denise more on WrestleTalk. No, let the fans do it. Let the fans say it.
Yeah.
I think that's just like, and I feel like unfortunate because I feel like even though Melissa had great points that she wanted to make, because it's almost because it was coming from her, I almost feel like that's why there was this negative reaction from those people that reacted negatively to this. But I do think she does have a point in the sense that I wouldn't say he was misused, but I would say I would like to see him have more matches on Dynamite, because I'm looking at this. So he had this match against Powerhouse Hobbs on September 1st. And, they've been telling the story with him and Team Taz. But I even mentioned this on my show, even before this whole Melissa Santos thing happened, that they sort of, started this feud. And then there was like this break. And then they kind of pause and go with it. And it's almost like they bring it up every other Dynamite. And I'm trying to see like, okay, when was the other time that he had a match on Dynamite? Before this match against Hobbs, he didn't have a match on Dynamite until the last match was on July 14th. Yeah. So he went, a little bit over a month without having a match, and that was against Ricky Starks. I do think they could utilize them in a to have him do more matches there. But then again, like I said, let the fans do the speaking, because that's just the way I think to do it.
Dan said, after watching All Out, I had the feeling like most people that this was a special event in wrestling history. It's not easy being a wrestling fan. Can be embarrassing at times. You guys make it fun, but after All Out, I feel vindicated for loving this sport. NS Ogre said, was at the AEW show on Wednesday. It was my first live taping. Everything was amazing. Wait until you see Andrade versus Pac. It was the best match of the night. Oh,
so happy to hear that. Yeah, so happy to hear that.
Yeah, we had someone emailed us. It was for their live report, said that had it been on All Out, it would have been the second best match on the card. So I'm hearing really good things about it. Perseus M said, missed the stream yesterday because I returned from Cincinnati at 3 a.m. Had the best time there. Just want to say this: do not miss Rampage. Park versus Andrade was epic. The Papa Papaya said, I don't know if this is good or not, but I think it would be a pretty cool having the first Omega Danielson match end with a time limit draw. What do you guys think? We kind of covered that a lot. Nathan said, a way to do the time limit draw would be to time it so that the bell rings as Omega hits the one-winged angel. Then have Omega and the Elite beat Danielson down in frustration. That way, any heat from the draw finish is absorbed by them.
I wouldn't hate it.
I agree. I think that is a excellent way to go. You take any of the heat that might have gone on to the booking and put it on the heels.
Reese Hayes said, what if they do the time limit at Full Gear and have Hangman make the save post-match, then pair off Cole for Bryan for Revolution and build to Hangman Kenny? There's also 2 years on from that incredible tag match if you do that Revolution.
I think the point was to kind of like add to the Arthur Ashe show, right? Wasn't that why we were?
That's kind of what we were talking about. Yeah, like some people were saying in the comments that like maybe they'll just do the tag match, like just sort of do Danielson, Christian, Kaz, and say Jungle Boy or something, and maybe Luchasaurus, and like do like the big baby faces versus the super elite, and kind of make that like the big headline match, which I totally actually think is also a really, really great idea in this huge epic 10-12 man tag.
I agree.
Tempest, like, where would you put it if you're given the option?
Well, see, it's difficult because I feel like the way that I would do it is almost redundant, because I would hold this off until after Omega loses the title, and they're not going to do that. They're building for this match like now, because I think if you put it on pay-per-view, you have to beat one of them. If you put it on Arthur Ashe, you can do the time limit draw. So if those are my two options, I'm going with the time limit draw.
Exactly. Chris, I think you brought up a good point. If it's on a pay-per-view, there has to be a definitive finish.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Chris says, hi guys, AEW very good, but do they need to use their big guys like Brian Cage better? WWE can do that with Sheamus and Drew, Lashley and Moss. I actually said this on a show recently and took a bit of heat for it, but saying like, I don't think AEW do big guys particularly great. I think they have a bunch of them, but they don't really like, they sort of put them on TV, but then don't want them to lose. So then they just don't put them on TV that much. Basically, it's just a way to protect them. I nearly called him Lance Hoyt for a second. Then Lance Archer is a really good example of this. Like they never put Lance out on TV because they don't want their big guys losing all the time. They kind of treat them as special attractions. Maybe that's an argument to say that it's a good way of doing it. But I'll put the question out there, Denise. How do you think that AEW do with their big guys?
They got to find a way to utilize them, because if they don't, I think Luke, you just mentioned right now was the way you tempt us. One of you guys just mentioned, and I'm glad that you mentioned it, because I thought about this yesterday and I was like, we've been talking about who is going to be, the first person to jump on over to WWE, instead of seeing it all go one way, who's going to be those people to go over to WWE at some point? AEW right now, again, like I said, looks really good. But we're not in the minds of everybody there on the roster. Clearly, Brian Cage is an example of that. That news that, just came out signifies that he may not be as happy as some people might think if he feels like he's being underutilized, and clearly had these conversations with his, with his spouse. So it's kind of like I could see him now jumping over to WWE if they make him, a beautiful offer. And I get it, there's the whole wellness thing and all of that to, consider and all of that. But let's just say they can look past that and I don't know, bring him in or something. I could see them painting, a beautiful picture for him and, some other people that may feel the exact same way as Brian Cage. Like we can't assume that everyone is happy, because that's just not the way things are.
Tempest, how do you feel?
It's very difficult. The way that the question is proposed, guys on the show like Sheamus and Drew and Lashley aren't necessarily pushed as like big guys. They're just kind of pushed as WWE guys, and WWE guys just happen to be very big. Whereas in AEW, the AEW guys are much smaller. They're the wrestlers. Kenny Omega's not like a tiny guy, but he's not Bobby Lashley as world champion, right? So I think there's a bit of a difference between the two companies there. But with AEW, I almost feel like they're kind of doing it the right way a little bit. I can understand people being frustrated with it, but I've seen so many times in WWE, you bring in the big giant guy and he goes crazy. He wins all his matches. He loses the world championship match. And if this was done in the 80s, you lose the world championship match, you move to a different territory, you do it again. In WWE, Braun Strowman loses to Brock Lesnar, and he's a guy again. And then what do you do with him? So AEW, I don't think has really had that problem yet, where they build them up, have them lose, and then they're a guy. They just kind of spread out their stories a little bit longer. And I don't think it's a perfect way to go about it, but I also don't think it's all that bad either.
Nick has got a fairly long question here, so let's go through it. It says, hi, Team Tanuki and Tempest. Glad to be able to Ultra Chat Team Tanuki again. Happy to send my first Ultra Chats to Tempest. While I'm happy for the improvements made to the women's division as a whole, though as a whole this week in AEW, it's still an absolute letdown. Once again, Hikaru Shida isn't in the mix on TV, and I'm starting to wonder what the hell is going on. While I'm understanding, but letdown, she didn't join Riho and Statlander in the Ruby Soho save. There is absolutely no reason she should have been left out of the Battle Royal Fallout promo. This makes her 3-month streak being absent from TV longer and more alarming during such a pivotal era of increased viewership and products awareness. Crikey, there's lots of these. Products awareness, and it's still upsetting that booking still treats one of the longest title reigns in AEW history this way. She is a complete afterthought, and I have to seriously wonder what she did to piss off Tony Khan, to have others cause the situation. She doesn't have heat with the talent, as 2 wrestlers confirmed separately she's beloved in the locker room. So is there any backstage insight yet into why she is booked like she is? AEW fans, especially the mega fans of Shida like myself, have a right to know why she's been done dirty like this, and the company and the wrestling news community can't keep us in the dark. Nick, there isn't some big conspiracy about Hikaru Shida being off TV. Like, I would love to see more Shida on TV as well, but the reason why she wasn't part of the save is because it was to build a 6-woman tag. And if you had Shida part of that, then there would have been there would have been an odd person out there. So you had to have Statlander and Riho to make 3 on one side for 3 on the other side. So there's no like conspiracy, there's no backstage heat, there's no politics, there's no this and the other. It's just there are some wrestlers in AEW that have had their time, and then they will be off TV for a while, and then they come back and have their time again. It's just they can't be on TV every week. So if you do that every week, people become saturated. You end up doing repeat matches all the time, and that's when people get really frustrated and get bored of seeing them. Keeping Shida off TV makes her still feel a little bit special. Keep her on Dark Elevation, keep her relevant, and this and the other, and wait until the time is right to bring her back into big storylines. That's just me on this, but I really don't think there's some big conspiracy theory at all as to why Shida isn't on TV. Denise, what do you think about it?
I love a good conspiracy theory, but I don't think this one's it right now. I'm looking at her record here, and ever since she lost to Britt Baker at Double or Nothing, lost the title, she has actually been on a winning streak on AEW Dark Elevation and AEW Dark. I think it's a 10-match winning streak, if I counted correctly. And recently, she also had another win. So she's been winning. Like, granted, she's been winning against, women that aren't necessarily like, your Britt Bakers of the world. But she has still been winning a lot of matches. So at least there's that.
Exactly. It's just on a different show. Tempest?
That's the thing. There just isn't enough TV time to go around for everyone. I mean, people like the Lucha Brothers weren't on TV for a good stretch of time there just because you can't fit everyone on there. And I agree that I do think a number of the people in the women's division definitely need to be given a bigger spotlight. I don't think that is even arguable at this point. But when it's this person or this person or this person, you just can't put everyone on TV. And Hikaru Shida got a full year as champion on TV. If I were to try and solve this, I would probably try and have more women's factions, because that's the way that so many of the men are able to get on TV every week, even if they're not wrestling. Because you've got Team Taz, you've got the Elite. Everyone ends up on TV for a segment, even if they're not wrestling. So if you were able to put like 4 women into one segment instead of just a one-on-one or a tag, maybe you could get more faces on TV that way.
But that is the thing, though. So I do get what they're saying by the fact that when she was champion, though, they didn't really highlight her as a champion, though. So I almost feel because she wasn't portrayed as a strong champion, like the way they're not treating her championship reign the same that they are Britt Baker's, right?
Agreed.
Like, there's a huge difference in that. So I almost feel because you had that, you had her as champion, and there were so many weeks where she wasn't on TV or she was on the sidelines, but you don't do that to your champion, okay? You don't put them in there with everybody else, right? And they did that to her. So it's almost like because of that, I can see why this, this person that sent in this Ultra Chat feels this way, because she went from such such a high point where she was supposed to be treated and protected like a champion. And then, after this, she's kind of, she loses the title and now she's, relegated back to Elevation, where it's like if her title reign would have been protected a little bit more, I don't think people would have kind of felt like they were kind of, treating her as less than. So I can see why this person feels this way. But then at the same time, it's like, yeah, I get the whole thing about like, there not being enough time for everybody, because that is just the plain truth. And that happens for both the men's and the women's roster. We just got off of talking about, this whole Brian Cage thing. All right, that's on the men's side. And then you have this on the women's side, which, there are even fewer spots, because let's be real, the women still get very little TV time as it is. So it's kind of like, I don't know, man. It's a difficult thing to do. But I mentioned this on my show the other day because I was listening to Tony Khan's interview that he did on Wrestling Observer Radio. And I'm paraphrasing when I say this, but he did mention in there, like, I know there's certain weeks where people feel like, we're not highlighting certain talent, or maybe we're not doing something, but just know that like there's a plan for everybody and like everything we do. Like essentially saying like we didn't hire people just to like be there, like they have hopes to do things with everybody, and again, that's impossible. Their roster is getting larger, and that's why, they have Dark and Dark Elevation, and now they have Rampage, and, on top of that, Dynamite, etc. So I do think they are trying to do that stuff. But yeah, if Shida's reign would have been better, or not better, but if they would have helped her have it be better, I don't necessarily think we'd be here having this conversation.
The legit underboss said, with Suzuki-gun announced for next Wednesday, who's the next New Japan faction you'd like to see debut in AEW? I'm hoping for LIJ. Bullet Club.
Bullet Club
versus the Elite. Always going to be my pick. Tempest, you're obviously you're with me with Bullet Club.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're all in agreement. Yeah, absolutely.
Give me that blood and guts match. Bullet Club versus Elite. Ooh, give me that.
Plot twist Jones. Maybe they can do a WCW thing and run out of time for Kenny and Bryan going off the air, still fighting each other. Technically, they can't, because they've already introduced they got the time limit or TV time remaining. So I don't think they can do that. And also, you've got to still end it for the live.
Just do a whole show with just a bunch of time limit draws.
I also don't think that's not a WCW idea I want to see borrowed. It's
definitely not.
Oh, we're going off the air, folks. Find out who won next week.
God.
No, I'm good.
Sean Carter says, I know it's anecdotal evidence, but I've got 3 friends who stopped watching wrestling over a decade ago who started watching AEW recently, as well as 2 friends who've never watched wrestling before. They all love it. AEW strategy is amazing. We've had plenty of people email in saying, like, when they were at the Cincinnati show this weekend, like, people in front of them were like, oh, I'm here for these people. I haven't been to a wrestling show since X amount of dates and this and the other. So I've heard a lot of anecdotal evidence that they are reaching those lapsed fans. James Hanley says, okay, bro, at Vince Russo Appreciation Night, Danielson versus Omega in a best wrestler certificate on a pole match, bro. Done. Ratings achieved, bro. I don't know if you wanted me to do that in my Vince Russo voice, but I won't do that. I was doing my Taz voice yesterday, and I was playing with fire, not getting a DM from Taz for being mad that he doesn't like my impersonations.
What is I haven't heard your impersonation of Taz.
Well, Team Taz? Oh, Taz just did the promos. We told the Punk, get your name out of my mouth, bro. Like, as you know, you just got basically just do a New York accent and just do things. Someone said it sounds like Barney from the Flintstones, and they're not wrong. I'm Team Taz over here. I'm gonna go bowling here, Fred.
All right. If you wouldn't have told me who you were trying to impersonate, and if you wouldn't have used those exact words, I would have. If you would have said something else, I would have never guessed Taz ever.
It's like a video game, Cole. James it reminds me of someone. I just can't put my finger on it, but it's not Taz. Oh, it's Barney from the Flintstones. That's exactly who I'm doing. Yeah. James Andy says, how much do you think the pandemic hastened AEW's rise and WWE's fall? Not saying that AEW's response was perfect, but they certainly appear to be more flexible with talented storylines throughout. WWE seemed to enter panic mode and have never really left. I don't know, like, because WWE have done nothing but climb since they got out of the pandemic, really. Like, now the crowds are back, their ratings are sort of back to where they were pre-pandemic. So, like, there was a bit of a fall, but they've just gone back to exactly where they were previously. Denise, what do you think?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Do you think the pandemic hastens WWE's rise, or like helps WWE's rise and
Well, yeah, of
WWE's Raw.
course. Yeah. I mean, there were so many people that weren't going to tune in to watch the Thunderdome. There, a lot of, what makes wrestling and what makes sports entertainment is, the live audience. And let's be real, like it was hard to watch the show without a live audience. And so I can see many people that, don't have to cover this as a weekly thing. I can see them skipping because they just didn't care to watch the show without fans. So yeah.
Also, someone said that my Taz impersonation sounded like Kermit. Sounds nothing like Kermit. That's how Kermit sounds.
See, I was almost going to agree with that, but then you did your Kermit impersonation, and now I have to change my mind.
Chris says, hey guys, just subscribe to Cineworld. Thank you very much. You should all go and do that. Ollie and I did our latest episode today, was us reacting, a literal live reaction to the Matrix Resurrections trailer, because we were there as Warner Brothers were promoting it. It was so exciting to do. So go and check that out over on Cineworld's channel. But it continues, when WWE announced the change of direction for NXT, like for big young guys, people thought like big tall men, with the signing of Gable Steveson, I think we may have a change of thought. To follow up on my last message, Stevenson, Creed Brothers and NXT this week. Perhaps WWE is shifting from indie wrestlers to Olympic All-American wrestling for its new stars. Stevenson could be the guy to dethrone Roman if all goes well at the PC. One last one before I talk about Alexa. Just wanted to get your opinion on this match. If done well, it could be a great story. The risk of doing a Hell in a Cell 2019 with Alexa's character. If this is a must win, or can she recover from... Oh, right. Talking about Alexa Charlotte's. Right. One last thing. Can Temis, the former fact checker, tell us how many one-on-one matches Alexa and Charlotte have had? Because I believe it's one of those rare things in WWE. A new match between two legends who have never crossed paths before. So that'll be one for you to have a quick fact check on, Tempest. But... so the question we've got here is, we've got the two-part question here. Gable Steveson and these other guys, like yes, Tempest.
Before that, Gable Steveson.
What did I? Oh, is it Steveson? Sorry, I don't watch the Olympics. So I'd say, is it Steveson?
Yeah.
Is it? Sorry,
it's Steveson.
Multiple.
Yeah.
I've called him Stevenson multiple times.
It's okay.
So
it looks like it is, but yeah.
Yeah. Actually, in all fairness, Chris wrote Stevenson. I was reading what he said. So that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. I would say that I think it is counting your chickens before they've hatched that he could be the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns, unless he takes this thing very, very quickly to like a Kurt Angle degree of like taking to this thing like a duck to water. But perhaps we'll see. The second, I mean, let's ask you, Denise, your thoughts on Gable
Way
Steveson.
Too soon to even be having this conversation. Let's have this conversation in about a couple of months.
Tempest, Gable Steveson.
It's, to me, it's the same thing that people were going nuts about Parker Bordeaux, last year or earlier this year. Yeah, it's just like, oh, he's going to be on SmackDown and he's going to be Roman Reigns' next challenger. Like, he has to learn how to wrestle first. I don't think we see Gable Steveson on TV for at least a year. And if we do, it's because he is greatly overperforming for his skill level. So like maybe he ends up on TV before then, but let's pump the brakes a little bit.
I want to add one more thing. Kurt Angles do not grow on trees.
They do not. No. He was an anomaly. He was a once in a lifetime kind of wrestler.
I hate when people are always like, oh, the next this person, the next that person. Like we were getting the next Brock Lesnar, the next Kurt Angle. Nah, I'm sorry. There's certain people that they have something because they have it. It's like the next Austin, the next Rock. There's not going to be a next Austin or a next Rock because that's who they are. Like, I don't like this whole next stuff. I had to go on that rant. I saw that on Twitter and I was like, next Kurt Angle, practically out of breath, heaving.
The other question that Chris had, Chris's Alexa Bliss question for the week, I guess. The match that we've got between Alexa and Charlotte at Extreme Rules, the comparison that he has made here is the Hell in a Cell 2019 Seth Rollins Fiend match, where Fiend lost and it really damaged his character. Would a Alexa Bliss loss here damage her character if she loses at Extreme Rules?
I don't think it is a matter of losing. I think it's a matter of doing hokey garbage. Yeah, the Fiend not walking out with the title hurt the presentation at Hell in a Cell, but it also hurt that was maybe the worst WWE main event of all time. And if they didn't just do a garbage fire of a match, maybe you could have done some way around it, but I don't know. I don't care about Alexa Bliss.
I think
I'm over the hokey garbage. I'm over it.
Alexa Bliss, people are gonna like her because they like Alexa Bliss, not necessarily because of the character. So I almost feel like if she were to lose, it wouldn't necessarily hurt. I think if anything, it'd give people hope of like, oh, good, she's done with this, thing. But I don't think she is because they want to sell more Lily dolls.
Yeah, and also as we all know, wins and losses don't matter. Bobby G says, hope you're all having a great day. In my view, I feel that all companies could succeed if the forbidden door was non-existent. I feel like WWE could save themselves if they just worked with others and changed their formula on how they work with talent. That is never going to happen. Like the Danielson thing is evidence of that. Danielson was just like, I just want to work some New Japan matches. WWE could have said that, but WWE were like, no, if you're doing New Japan matches, we're the only people that can have New Japan matches then. And that completely bollocks the whole thing up. They're never going to have that open mind policy too.
I do not think that in order for WWE to be good, that they have to do these relationships with other companies. I think they have more than enough talent to work amongst themselves the way they are. Creative is the issue. It's not whether or not they're working with New Japan or AEW or whatever. It's not that.
Charles Berg said, hello team Danuke Salcedoin and Tempest. What a fun and exciting time to be a wrestling fan. It's like the entire wrestling world, barring one universe, is working together to make wrestling fun again. That's really nice. Jam that jam. Brett Harvey said, good morning from New England. Question for the group. If you could only watch one style of wrestling, i.e. hardcore US indie strong style for the rest of your lives, what would it be? My choice would be 90s HAPW Kings Road. Jam that jam. Wrestling's a buffet. I don't want to just choose one thing from a buffet. I like the fact that wrestling is very
from a buffet.
Yeah, from a buffet.
I like the way you say it. Say it again.
Buffet.
No, it's
Buffet
buffet.
The Vampire Slayer.
Like buffet. I think now you're making me question the way I say it. Let me see. Hometown buffet. No, hometown buffet. I say like buffet.
A buffet, the Vampire Slayer. Tempest.
I'm very confused about what's going on right now. To answer your question,
we
Brett,
do this a lot.
To answer your question, if I had to pick like an era or something, I would probably say like New Japan from 2010 to 2020, because I think that's like just the best that it's ever been. But that being said, I think that the best wrestling shows, whether it be the classic NXT takeovers, Dynamite and AEW pay-per-views today, or the best New Japan shows, are ones with a mix of styles where every match is different, every match is unique, and every match is engaging.
Preach it to the choir. Say it louder for those in the back, please.
I completely agree. Like the greatest wrestling match of all times, we all know, is the hardcore triple threat from WrestleMania X7. If every match on the card was that, it wouldn't have made that greatest match of all time feel special.
Look, I can't.
And to put to rest, Charlotte and Alexa Bliss have wrestled 2 matches, one at Survivor Series 2017, one on NXT in 2014.
That's really surprising. That's genuinely surprising.
Are you
really
naming your baby
actually.
Raven?
No, Raven was not on the list of names for the child, I'm afraid.
Why not?
Neither any of the Ghostbusters names either, which they were for a little bit.
Did they get vetoed?
I don't know. I know, vetoed by myself. I was like, I don't think I could raise Egon Owen. I don't think I could like, in all good faith, call a child Egon just because I really like a movie that came out 40 years ago.
I was expecting to welcome little baby Raven Owen.
No, that doesn't have a nice ring to it either. Maybe it's a middle name.
Raven Owen sounds actually like a brilliant writer. Like I would read Raven Owens' books.
Well, maybe if I give it like as a nickname, I can just call it like Little Rave.
Baby Raven.
Maybe they can go that way. Ten Rizza said, so happy for AEW, and I hope the gap can close even more within the next couple of months. The FOMO is still real with me nearly a week removed. So jealous. Damn it, Denise, why would you make me cry? Also surprised it was your first karaoke. I loved it. AEW, baby. Can't believe that was your first karaoke.
It was. I was so scared too. Like my heart was pounding. They announced like the people that are going to go up next, and they were doing the names, and I was like, "Oh my god, they're going to say my name! Damn it! Dang it! Dang it!" Also, my vlog is up, so you guys can watch that.
I actually haven't had a chance to watch it yet, only because
Thanks a lot. Are you going to suffer from the FOMO? Because I put pictures. You might not be able to handle it, Luke. You might not be able to handle it.
FOMO. But I am going to watch it, though, because I'm supporting my friend. Kevin, cheap plug. Go to WrestleTalk's website and check out Tempest's list of potential opponents for Bryan and Cole. Amazing to see this deep roster and how many exciting matches it can offer. Tempest.
Those are very fun to write these days. I will be perfectly honest. For those who don't know, I've started writing feature content on WrestleTalk.com once again. And we, this week, have put out lists of the dream matches for Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, and Ruby Soho. So make sure you go over, check them all out.
I like this from the legit underboss. Luke, I want Bullet Club to debut in AEW. Kenta, Hikuleo, and Haku. AEW, we a joke to you. I mean, okay, well, we haven't had like the Bullet Club. We've had members of the Bullet Club on the show, but it's not like, you know, Minoru Suzuki was on the show. I wouldn't say that Suzuki Goon debuted on AEW Dynamite. That's my caveat. That's my way out of that. Robert says, Tempest and Denise, I know, I have to know what it was like to hear the live crowd sing Kaza Nina Ray. Did you join in, Denise?
I didn't. My voice was like so messed up, man. Like I'm still stuff. Like my voice is still not back at 100%, but just being there for the live audience was chef's kiss.
Tempest?
Sure, goddamn right I did. You're goddamn right I did. Oh, and it was so. I don't want a barrier by any means, but as I said, I was sitting next to Izzy for the show. Not a clue what everyone was losing their mind about. So I was like, okay, well, all right, whatever. I turn around and Phil Lindsay's behind me and he's losing his mind. And we're just like, let's go, man. Suzuki's here. This is so awesome. Oh.
And I was tweeting. Bro, the Wi-Fi was terrible. So, you know, whenever I only got good Wi-Fi was whenever, so I was saying this on my post show, I only got good Wi-Fi, believe it or not, when the entrance musics would hit. So if someone's entrance came out for some reason, that's when I would get the signal to be able to send a tweet. And so by that point in the show, I was like, you know.
Can I just raise a question here? Get off your phone, nerds. Like, enjoy the show. What you're tweeting out about things for.
I'm sorry. People want to know my thoughts. And my thoughts weren't even that great. They were just, oh my God.
One of the most annoying things I've ever witnessed at a wrestling show is when I was at a Rev Pro show and I was with Andy Datson, who was buying a Christmas jumper while a match was going on. And I was like, Andy, get off your phone, man. Like,
okay, to be fair, I was not online shopping. I was tweeting about what was happening on the show.
I saw Andy Datson on his phone during an Okada Suzuki match, and I was like, you can get off your phone. You stop looking at your phone.
Did you try the CM Punk ice cream bar by any chance?
Hell yeah. Those ice cream bars are great.
Looks
like
I'm being sent a wrapper. It's the closest I'm getting.
Yeah. I was expecting them to just kind of be like, you know, your typical, like, you know, grocery store ice cream bars. Those are good ice cream bars. I don't know if they're selling them like post Chicago week at all the AEW shows, but if they are and you're there, go get one.
The funniest thing happened to me while I was eating that ice cream. I was like, you know, when the ice cream starts melting and you have to start going sideways and the chocolate's like dripping down. I'm literally chocolate all over my mouth. And there were some people like on the other section that were like, Denise. And I was like chocolate all. Thank God they couldn't tell because I was so far away, but I was waving and like literally chocolate all over my mouth. But it was so good. Sorry, Luke. But like, you know, I'm not a big fan of ice cream. Man, this one was really good. And I'm not just saying that because I'm saying that, but it was good.
Love Toast said, I really want to thank teams like WrestleTalk and Sean and Denise. I stopped watching WWE for a while, but kept up with your content. Hearing you all talk about AEW has helped me get into watching them, and be able to be around all of this is fun. Dogs of Wrestling says, Luke Owen, DAD, Denise, and Quizzlemania Tempest. What a way to spend a day off. Hope you guys are all having a good day. Jam that jam. LIW for life. Denise, do you have a catchphrase? Also, I loved your Shang-Chi review, Luke. You're awesome. Thank you very much for watching it. Denise, do you have a catchphrase? I mean, because like you can't take mute Denise, I guess, because that's short.
No, I don't have a catchphrase. I have a bunch of names, but not like a catchphrase.
Yeah.
I'll
You're
work
just the
on
hardest working person in all of sports infotainment.
But that's your catchphrase. You coined it. I can't take credit for that.
Well, no, but you could like take that branding elsewhere. Like everyone else uses it to introduce you. So like, I mean, and I would, yeah, Sean should really use that introduction.
Oh, you swear. Well, yeah, I need a catchphrase. Someone come up with a good one.
Babutel, AEW is really stepping up their game globally, as we now know they just got their streaming deal done in India. It costs 400 rupees a year, £4, and that's bloody hell, £4 for the entire year, including all pay-per-views. £4. Bloody hell. I'm just going to do a quick conversion rate to see what that is in dollars.
Is that like $5? No, $2. Okay, I'm going to place a bet. $2. No, I don't know.
$5.50.
Oh, okay. I wasn't that off.
Yeah, $5.50 for the whole year. I don't know what that is in Canadian dollars. It's probably like, I don't know, 2 cents or something. Terrible Canadian dollars. Chris says, hey guys, I knew the answer was rare. That's why people gave it the yes chance on Monday. Great stunner sell at Denise. Fran Twinblade, Denise, talk about how awesome 2D Lynn is.
Who?
Says, talk about how awesome 2D Lynn is.
2D Lynn?
Yeah.
I don't know who 2D Lynn is.
What a burial. What an absolute burial.
He's on Empower. She's on NWA.
I don't know.
Little blue dragon.
No, I don't know. I'm sorry. Nobody else knew. Did y'all know?
Oh, I've got the power of Google on my side. Ashley Olivia Cartwright said, do you remember me saying to you, Denise, WWE is a morally bankrupt business. They deserve what is happening to them. Told you they were running out of goodwill. They have to treat their talent better. Apologies for the past and promise for a better future. Filthy Casual said, when you cover Monday Night Raw, you're not covering 3 hours of wrestling, you're covering 3 hours of sports entertainment. Very true. Misha says, Denise, loved your vlog. Big question is, what song did Tempest and SRS sing at the karaoke? I was saving this question. What did you sing at karaoke, Tempest?
Tempest did not sing karaoke, unfortunately. Tempest was going to sing Take Me Home, Country Roads, but someone beat me to the punch. And I was upset. I was like, God damn it. This
that one. Was it somebody that we knew?
It was just some guy. It was just some guy. And I was like, oh man, because that's my karaoke song. That's my like one karaoke song, and they stole it from me. Like SRS did in the world. Yeah.
Okay, to be fair, he didn't sing an actual song. It was Jeremy's song. And then John Alba and Connor Casey joined in, and then Sean got FOMO, and then he went in and joined in.
That's exactly what happened. I can't remember exactly which song it was, though.
I didn't know the song, so.
Friends in Low Places.
There you go. That was the song.
Yeah.
Quick update. She was a fan of Favorite and Empower. She was the people they wanted to win the Battle Royal. And I wonder, Denise, really, like, if you wanted to do better on your platform, you really should support women's wrestling more.
Yeah,
like,
I do zero support of women's wrestling because they're not on. Women are not on Raw. They're not on Impact. They're not on AEW. They're not on Rampage. Jesus, why would I, a woman? Don't even get me started on that comment. People just look. I've gotten to the point people just want to attack me just to attack me at this point. So
you reach a level, bud.
Yeah, I'm there right now. So I'm just like, all right, and if I'm in a grumpy mood, I'll respond. Or also like if I feel like someone's just being like idiotic, I'll have to say something where I'm like, dude, don't be this person. Come on. I also don't. I mean, I could go off on this, but I'm not gonna. But I do not like. Well, you know what? I'm not going to go off on this tangent. Continue on.
Gary Coxhead said, watched your blog, Denise. Congrats on the weekend. You three are ace. Keep it up. Have a great weekend. Thank you to Chris for your other messages, and to Filthy Casual, who said, told us to go all screw ourselves. So that is very nice. Thank you all for watching. This has been an incredibly long show. We have had a lot to talk about today. So, Denise, what would you like to plug outside of your blog?
Okay, just go to youtube.com/Denise Salcedo. I'm so close to 50K. It's like, I'm like 1,000 something away from hitting 50K. So please go there. I have all the Scrum videos up. You can watch them in full. And then also my vlog is there, which I just posted, and it already has like over 6,000 views, which for a vlog for me is like a lot. And I wasn't even sure if my vlog was going to be great, but there's some pretty there's some fun stuff in there. So I would definitely go and check it out. And then, I mean, everybody's been liking it so far. So yeah. And then I'm hoping to get to 40K on Twitter by the end of this month. So please go there too at _ Denise Salcedo.
Tempest, anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, there's always stuff that I want to plug. My YouTube channel, Tempest the Wrestler, you can follow that right here, is like 10 subscribers away from 5,000. So that would be a cool landmark to hit for the weekend. Otherwise, you can follow me on Twitter at TempestWT. You can watch Quizzlemania next week. That'll be fun. And also the NXT review from this week, the SmackDown and Rampage review that will be happening on Saturday. There's a whole lot of stuff going on WrestleTalk.com when it comes to features. We've brought on a lot of feature writers recently and some names that you might recognize from various shows here and there. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they can all create together. And before wrapping this up, I just want to say thank you and plug all the lovely people that I met in Chicago, because this was like the first time that I got to go out into the world and be like, you know, a media person at a wrestling show. And it was amazing to meet Denise and the Church of Joshi girls and Phil Lindsay. And I'd met Sean Ross Sapp, but actually getting to hang out with him for a few days and everything was very nice. Everyone was so great. No one was a dick. Everybody was just amazing. And then the same goes for all of the lovely people that I got to meet in Chicago that were fans that came up and said hi, took pictures, and just wanted to say how much the WrestleTalk meant to them. I got to talk to Val, who runs Pro Wrestling Tees, who's a big fan of WrestleTalk, and she was just the sweetest woman in the world. So everyone was great. Everyone helped make my week that much better, and I want to thank every single person that I talked to in Chicago for that.
Well, screw the both of you for going. That's all we've got time for on this edition of the WrestleTalk podcast. I've been Luke Cohen. That has been Denise Salcedo. That has been Tempest T Wrestler. You've all been fantastic. Have a great weekend, everyone. And jam that jam. Bye, everyone.